Welcome back. Let's get chatting with the management of Transport Corporation. Again, in an otherwise wobbly market where the mid-cap index is down almost 1,000 points, a little over 1,100 points. This is a stock which is holding with gains of about 4%. Tells you how the performance has been resilient in tough conditions. The company said there's stalling economic conditions due to heavy monsoons, uncertainties of global geopolitical developments and slower private consumption. Despite that, the revenues have grown by about 12.8%, EBITDA has grown by 16%, and the net profit itself has grown by about 22% itself. Well, we do have with us the management of Transport Corp, Vineet Agarwal, joining in. Vineet, thank you so much for joining in, and it's a resilient performance that you've reported. Part one of the question is, how did you manage to do that? And part two of the question is that now that you've done this, with the prospects of the economy looking better in the second half post-monsoons ahead of festive season, do you believe you can grow faster than this 10 to 12% sort of range that you had guided for?
Hi, always good to be back, and not on a day like this, but nevertheless. The profit growth came from our Seaways business. Our Seaways business has done well because of the shift of certain ships that were operating on the coastal waters of India to the international waters. As you know, international freight rates are still quite high, and that has impacted global freight rates and global capacity demand and supply, and ships started moving towards that side. So that gave us a flip in terms of the price realization that we were getting on the domestic market. The fuel prices have also been benign, so that has helped also. And hence our Seaways business did relatively well. We did see, however, some weakness on the private consumption side. FMCG businesses have been a little slow. Offtake has been a little weak. But interesting things are happening on the quick commerce side and on the fulfillment. Maybe we'll talk about that later. Your second half of the
now.
Well, okay, sure. So quick commerce is a very interesting development in the last few months. There is the fulfillment aspect is something that we do. We run the warehouses behind the dark stores, and these are across the country. They're not just the domestic, the regular kind of products, the dry products, but we also do cold products. And then we supply them to the dark stores, and then the last mile is done by the dark stores. We don't do that part. So it is a very, very fast growing market. It has, consumer trends are changing very rapidly around this. It's moving away from just impulse buying to even more than that, where people are doing their grocery shopping on a regular basis, as we all are. Yesterday I met someone who said they ordered 2 pieces of banana from a quick commerce company, and they got it in 10 minutes. So this is how the trends are, and that is impacting supply chains also, and giving great opportunities for companies like us, which are present across the value chain. On your second half of the question, which is growth prospects, we have guided for 10 to 15% on the top line and about 15% odd on the bottom line as well. Usually for us, Q2 is interesting because that's when all the festival stocking starts happening in advance. And we did see that this time around 5 to 10% increase in festival stocking versus last year. So that augurs well for Q3, Q4 generally for other companies. Q3 is good because MNCs are closing their books. Q4 is good because Indian companies are closing their books. So generally we do expect it to be better also. And also Q4 was a little muted last year because of the impending elections. So yes, I think we should hit our upper end of the guidance that we are giving.
Vineet, good afternoon. Thank you for joining in. An interesting point you made about quick commerce. How big a part of your business has this become as of now? And part two is, since you mentioned Seaways as well, do you expect Seaway margins to also improve in the second half?
Well, it's a very small percentage of our business, quick commerce. It's just one of those areas in our supply chain solutions business that we are working very diligently on expanding. We do work for other e-commerce players as well, whether it is specifically on the big box or on the multi-brand companies or single brand companies as well. We do the fulfillment for them. We also do fulfillment for large FMCG companies, FMCD companies, as well as food companies. But generally speaking, this is not a very large business for us in terms of the overall scheme of things. On the Seaways side, margins will remain stable. I don't expect them to go up further because the global prices have started to soften right now. I think there is also a talk globally for some kind of a recession that might pull back freight rates across the shipping lines as well. So I do not expect shipping prices to, or rather our margins to go up in that sector.
All right, those shipping margins stay around that 30% odd mark itself. Back to quick commerce once again, not because it's a large part of your business, but it's a small part, fast growing part of your business. The nature of that business, is it, full truckload? Is it light, less than truckload? How does that mix impact your performance since you are managing the warehouses? I'm sure you would be doing the to and fro from those warehouses, etc. as well. Is it a margin accretive business? And with more and more business moving away from e-commerce into quick commerce, do you see that shift, changing your margin profile or earnings profile here? Or for logistics, it doesn't matter whether it's Q-com or e-com?
You are absolutely right. I think it does not matter. The latter is more true because it's more from a perspective of what the customer wants. See, the margin profile is more or less fixed in the supply chains today. When at a fulfillment level, also you do. Now, if you're doing less SKUs, let's say if you're doing 2,000 SKUs versus 50,000 SKUs, clearly the complexity increases or decreases. And that's where you probably end up taking slightly better margins. In quick commerce, actually, the SKUs are quite limited in a city. It goes very, very focused onto each dark store. If it's a area which is where certain types of population live, then those kind of products are available more. So it does not impact that, but it does impact the overall performance of the complexity in terms of how we are delivering. And also the movement is B2B. It is not B2C. It is ultimately going from the warehouse, the fulfillment to a dark store, which is a business as well. So in that sense, it is less complex, I would say, comparatively.
Right. What about, since you mentioned full truckload and less than truckload, Vineet, what's the mix currently among the two, and where do you see that at the end of the year? Do you see that remaining as it is, since I guess less than truckload is around 37% of your freight business? Where do you see that number going?
Not moving too much, actually, unfortunately, because the MSME business is not doing too well across the country. I mean, we know that there is slowdown across and there is some pressure there as well. Credit offtake is not extremely good. And that LTL business has a direct correlation with that. So I would think that we would be having moderate growth there, and we would be at around the same 37% odd kind of number for the full year end.
All right, take that point. Thank you so much, Vineet, for joining in. Not only about your business, but you gave us an insight into other businesses and other consumer trends as well. And like you said, on the one hand, people are ordering just 2 bananas on quick commerce. The other, yesterday itself, Albinder Rinsa went ahead and said, gave an EMI option for all products that are upwards of 2,999 on Blinkit itself, telling you that maybe quick commerce is slowly and steadily replacing e-commerce, because if the purchase decision is made, then why wait? Just get it itself. We've seen, an increase in ticket sizes. Thank you so much for joining in. Wish you and your team a very happy Diwali. Let's slip into a short break. On the other side, we have Sanjay Sethi, who's the Managing Director and CEO of Chalet Hotels, joining in to discuss their quarterly performance.